young assassins would often be killed on the spot or later be executed, they were made to believe that their death at the scene of the crime or by later execution will result in a return to the paradise they remembered. The notoriety of the assassins spread. It was rumored that some European kings were paying tribute to the assassins to avoid becoming targets. Although the extent of the assassin activity in Europe is still debated today, some historians assert that the assassins focused most of their deadly practices on the conflicts going on in the Middle East. The assassins became famous far and wide as a result, and all people who attempt the murder of a political leader have come to be known as assassins or users of hashish. Although most modern assassins have not been hashish users, many have shown evidence of considerable mental tampering, which will be discussed near the end of this book. By the end of the 13th century, the Mongols had overrun the Middle East and had destroyed major assassin strongholds. Interestingly, the Mongols were also inspired by mystical beliefs. The assassins managed to survive the onslaught, and they exist today. Modern assassin sects are reported to be peaceably settled in India, Iran, and Syria. Their titular head is Aga Khan, who is the spiritual leader of all Ismailians worldwide. The Ismailians were estimated to number at about 20 million people as of today. As of 1840, the Aga Khans had been operating out of India because of an unsuccessful rebellion in 1838 of Aga Khan I against the Persian Shah. When the rebellion failed, Britain offered sanctuary to the Aga Khan in India, which was then under British rule. Since then, the Aga Khans have been traveling in elite circles of Western society. Recent Aga Khans have received educations at Oxford, Harvard, and in Switzerland. The Aga Khans have also gained a place in the international banking community through their establishment of a central bank in Damascus, Lebanon. That is unbelievable stuff. Whew. That's who the fuck these guys are. You know, like they are telling us that. I mean, I don't hear Jonesy talking about that. Folks, these assassins, let me tell you something. The bankers are assassins, folks. Okay? These people are offshore. They're offshore assassins, folks. Folks, I don't know what to do. You're going to have to call Ted, and he's going to shit out a gold deal for you today. It's going to be brilliant. I'm telling you what. I mean, really, though, my goodness, that's kind of an important piece of information. My goodness. I mean, again, it just proves these custodial bastards are the ones that set up the banks, they set up the religions, they set up everything. Use all these proxies to do it. Set up little dummy corporations. It may be a coincidence that lone assassins arose as an important phenomenon in the United States just about the time that Aga Khan I was establishing a relationship with the British in the early 19th century. The first known lone assassin to strike a U.S. president did so in 1835. The intended victim was Andrew Jackson, who was, interestingly, a member of a Knights Templar organization in America. Since then, U.S. presidents have been the targets of lone assassins every 10 to 20 years. Many other Western leaders and public figures have also been victims, although I have seen no evidence that the assassin sect itself is behind modern lone assassin episodes. It is clear that their technique has been picked up and used by influential political sources within Brotherhood connections in the Western world, as I shall discuss more fully in a later chapter. As we have seen, the Crusade era witnessed the birth of institutions which still affect us today. To the list, we can add two famous Christian orders, the Franciscans and the Dominicans. The Franciscans adopted the cord at the lion's outfit and the bald spot used by ancient Egyptian Brotherhood priests at El Amarara. The Franciscans appeared to be quite humane. The Dominicans, on the other hand, were placed in charge of the most widely hated byproduct of the Crusades, the Catholic Inquisition. The medieval Inquisition has been universally condemned as one of the most oppressive human institutions ever developed. It was known for its tortures and zealous excesses. The Inquisition arose out of an effort by Pope Innocent II to stamp out a large heretical sect in the south of France known as the Albigensians. Innocent II had called for a special crusade in 1208 to enter France and wipe out the sect. The 5-year war which ensued devastated the region. 10 years later, a new pope, Gregory IV, continued the action, and he placed the Dominicans in charge of investigating the Albigensians. Gregory gave the Dominican order full legal power to name and condemn all surviving heretics. Out of this campaign grew the full inhuman machinery of the Catholic Inquisition, which sought to stamp out heresy of every type. The Inquisition generated a fearful climate of intellectual and spiritual oppression in Europe. You know, it just dawned on me. I bet William Bramley's a Freemason. It makes no difference. I mean, I'll still have him on either way. I don't think I'll ask him if he's a Freemason, but man, I wouldn't change what I really wouldn't change what I think about him. I wonder if he is, though. Some of this stuff I'm reading, when I'm reading this, I'm going, man, because he's definitely not one of these, you know, priest class Jesuit, you know, typical conspiracy bozos. He's definitely not, because man, the stuff that he's talking about in this is way off the plantation, you know, getting into naming the stuff that, I mean, this, wow. And again, you know, I think it's why a lot of the stuff has been relegated to this fringe, because, I mean, it really does sort of peel the onion back on who's really in control and how far it goes back, doesn't it? The Inquisition generated a fearful climate of intellectual and spiritual oppression in Europe for the next 600 years. Hearsay, innuendo, and honest intellectual disagreement led many decent people to the torture rack and also death by burning. The social scars are still visible today in the instinctive fear so many people have of expressing non-conforming ideas. The Inquisition helped breed a social reaction of violence to non-conforming ideas that the world has not yet fully escaped. It is clear that the Christian church has undergone many changes by the time the Crusades ended. The church was no longer the humanitarian, decentralized religion envisioned by Jesus. The new Catholic Church, headquartered in Rome, had succumbed to the reforms of the East Roman emperors. It was a religion Jesus would have deplored. Fortunately, after the demise of the Inquisition, the Catholic Church began to improve, and it has many good qualities today. Well, maybe I'll take back what I said about Bramley. Maybe he is a priest class post. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Who knows? Well, we're going to have him on, and it should be a good show nonetheless. That's just a staggering statement. I mean, maybe that's a joke. I mean, that's a staggering. I mean, this guy just went on a fucking 18-page tirade, just taking a knife and just gutting the Catholics. I mean, right up the middle. And then he puts the motherfucking cherry and nuts on top of it and says the Catholic Church began to improve and it has many good qualities today. That's gotta be. That's gotta be a bit just blowing smoke, right? I mean, seriously. Good, has good qualities today. Maybe I will ask him about that. Yeah, Mr. Bramley, in your book, you said that Catholic Church has many good qualities. I'd like to know what's like for you to name for us in my audience right now what those good qualities are, and I'd like to have a discussion about that. I think that's a pertinent question. How about you? Perhaps the most significant event of the Crusades does not involve the waging of war, the programming of assassins, or the creation of an inquisition. It entails the making of a peace. In the year 1228, German Emperor Frederick II led a crusade to Jerusalem. Frederick was not in good graces with the Pope at the time, and Frederick has been described as a strange, secular-minded, highly educated prince, a sworn enemy of the papacy on political grounds, who had acquired by marriage the title of what was left of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Frederick's fight with Pope Gregory had begun only 1 year before his trip to Jerusalem. The conflict between Frederick and Pope Gregory centered about the issue of centralized papal power. Frederick opposed it, and Gregory was striving to hasten it. This dispute caused Frederick to be put under sentence of excommunication, a sentence finally carried out in 1245. While under the sentence, but not yet excommunicated, the unrepentant Frederick journeyed to his kingdom in Jerusalem at the head of his own crusade. Despite a deep involvement with the Teutonic Knights, Frederick II proved on that trip that he could be a man of peace. Instead of prolonging war with the Muslims, Frederick negotiated a peace treaty. He apparently felt that it was in everyone's best interest to end the religious strife, and that is precisely what he did. Frederick accomplished this feat by negotiating with the reigning Muslim leader, Sultan Kamil. Within a year of starting his talks with the Sultan and without the approval of the Pope, Frederick concluded a treaty signed in 1229 that gave Jerusalem back to the Christians for 10 years, provided that the Christians did not arm themselves. The arrangement worked. Using negotiation and appeals to reason, Frederick had accomplished in one short trip what the popes had claimed they were trying to do for almost 130 years with warfare and blood. Under Frederick's treaty, Christians were free to inhabit Jerusalem and make pilgrimages there, and the Muslims were freed from the threat posed by the Christian armies. Many Christian and Muslim leaders were not at all happy with this agreement, however, for Frederick had set it up, leaving both parties indignant at so peaceful a settlement. When the truce finally ran out in 1239, the Holy War was resumed. We might legitimately ask, why was Frederick's treaty not extended or a similar one negotiated? What purpose was served by diving into 70 additional years of bloody warfare? The Christians wound up losing the Holy Land altogether. So often we hear that wars are a product of basic human nature, yet in one peace effort, we saw 130 years of raging conflict end through the effort of one man appealing to the reason and cooperation of another man, resulting in peace for the duration of the treaty. See, that is a clear-cut case. That's a perfect example of why they use divide and conquer, why they use phony left-right paradigm, why they use race, color, sexual orientation, whatever have you, to divide us. Because that situation described right there proves that human beings, mankind, left to our own devices, left untampered, left without a hierarchy, left without religion, control, any of this stuff, can come together and live together.